who will be presenting today. I just wanted to let everyone know that at the end of the webinar today we'll have a Q&A session. If you can please save your questions until the end, and also make sure that your questions are relevant to today's topic. We'd certainly appreciate that. Thank you, and now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Donna.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a good day, evening, afternoon, or morning. So we're going to go ahead and pick up where we left off on Tuesday. So we're back in employees, and we're going to go into schedules. So again, I just want to refresh everybody's memory. So we talked about the time management functionality of the system. You can use the clock in and clock out features of the system completely independent of scheduling. Scheduling, again, is just an enhancement that a lot of places like to use, and you can use it in two functions. You could actually just create schedules through the system. You can also not enable them, or you could also go ahead and enable them in the system to really enforce the schedule. So people really are required to clock in and clock out during their proper scheduled times. All right. So as soon as you go into scheduling, it's going to come up and ask you for the date. When you build your schedule, you're building it by day. We also will show you, obviously, you can go in for the 7 days of the week, but we're going to do day by day by day by day when we do this. Now, I'm going to take us back to Tuesday because I was planning on covering this on Tuesday, so I've already set up some training data for Tuesday. So again, you can go backwards and forwards also because in theory, you're building your schedule a week to 2 weeks out. You're not actually playing with it the day of, hopefully. So I'm going to click OK. And as soon as I do that, it's going to go ahead and load up the schedule for me. And there we have it. All right. So what you're seeing, so we have a combination of buttons. The back here is set up very similar to the back office. You have all your drop-down menus where you can, select the drop-down menu, and it's going to bring us a sub-menu with a variety of different functionality that you can go in and use. We also have this little taskbar, if you will, where we put on the most common functionality. And again, just like you can with the regular back office, you can configure the taskbar and you can add and remove various functions. So they may not want all of the different items that are here. So right now we have it set up basically that all items that are related to building schedules are up here already, but if I wanted something off of there, I could just pull it down and remove it. Very similar to, or I should say exactly the same way we do the back office. All right. So again, going through our drop-down menus, you can see you have a variety of options in here. So you've got your scheduling, and then you also have your window. And this, you'll notice, has the show active records only. Again, just like our back office window. So by default, we are automatically showing active records. And because we're using the PixelPoint scheduling, that is a schedule that we're looking to as opposed to a schedule we possibly would have imported from another labor programming system. All right, so to the taskbar, couple of things we have is load schedule, which is what I did when I first came into the program. If I didn't want to look at Tuesday the 27th, I wanted to look at a different schedule, I could click load program again, and it's going to bring me back up my date window where I can choose, again, which date that I might have wanted to look at. So I'm going to, just to do it, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the 29th. And now it's bringing me up my listing for the 29th. Okay, so I can do that either here using the quick button, or I could go to schedule and I could use the functionality there to do it as well. All right. Another option to manipulate what days you're working off of is if you look down here in the lower right-hand side, you have arrow buttons to either go to the previous day or the next day. So again, we've given you a number of ways that the customer can manipulate what day of the week that they want to play with. So if I actually wanted to hit previous day, I can do it twice. It's going to take me back to the Tuesday that I originally wanted to come into. Okay. So just I'm going to give you the layout of the land prior to teach you guys some of the functionality of this. So what we're looking at, obviously, and again, we have our quick reference buttons, if you will. We also through here have a search option. We have an ability to filter, a number of abilities to filter. So I can show, by default, we're showing all employees. If I chose, I could actually show employees based on either by their job types as opposed to just showing all employees by their name. Intervals, we have a functionality. If you remember back in setup, we chose to do things by the hour, but if I wanted to change the scheduling up, so notice I'm going 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock and so forth. If I wanted to change this up and look at everything and say 15-minute intervals or 30-minute intervals, I can schedule in those intervals as well. Shift type, so how do I want to show the information? Do I want to show by shifts? Do I want to show by time off, by vacation, or working at another store? These are all options. When you build a schedule for someone, when you put in a time hour for them, these are the different options of shift types that you can put in. So again, like time off being, they just need the time off versus a vacation. Maybe I want to pull up a schedule and I want to see everybody that's been scheduled for vacation hours. Or when I'm building the schedule, I'm putting them in as vacation hours or just generic time off hours, etc. So basically, these are various different sorting options that you have. Okay. And then when you come down into the body of the schedule, we have a couple of tabs. This is going to show different types of information. So regular schedule, schedule shown by shift times. So instead of seeing the graph, I'm actually going to see the hours that I've scheduled somebody for. Template, which we'll get into what the template is, but that is basically you can set up a template in the system, and that we're going to look at the template view, or I'm looking at the forecasting view. And again, forecasting has two different options, which we'll get into once we get that far. So I'm going to take us back to the main scheduling. This is by default what most people work off of. You'll see here we got the date, the date that we're actually looking at, hours/preferences. So hours is how many hours have I scheduled somebody for this particular day based on their preference. So if, again, in employee file, we were able to go into scheduling there and put in that employee's preferences, what days of the week that they do and don't like working, and also how many hours they liked they would prefer to have per week, and also what their skill level was. So as we're doing this by day, the preferences then also divide themselves up by the 7 days of the week. So you're seeing on an average what they're, they're seeing here averaging what they asked for. So for Edward, for instance, we put in his preferences 40 hours a week. Douglas is 50 hours a week. For Hannah, hers is 30, and so far we've scheduled her for 2. I'm just making sure that that's a 2 and not a 20. Yeah, that's a 2. There's a decimal. There's a tiny little decimal in there. So you can see as you're going along how what you scheduled them for based on what their preferences also. Also, this is where it's showing us that skill level that we set up. So again, my recommendation when you first hire somebody is maybe if it's somebody who's never had a job before, you're taking a chance on a teenager per se, you maybe put them in, say, a skill level 3 or 4 until you get them trained up. Or maybe you put everybody in as an average of a 5, and then as you've worked with them and you can assess their skill level, then you can go back in and you can adjust it. So by having the skill levels here, you can assure that per day, per shift, you've got an equal skill level on the floor. You're not putting all superstars on the floor. So you'll notice here, Gina is a superstar. She's probably at a level 10, which is why she's got the stars. Same with Carla. So you're making sure you're not scheduling all superstars, and then maybe scheduling a couple of people. So you see have it like somebody here is a 5, and having another shift where you've got everybody, say, under 5 that you have in the system. Okay, it just helps a little bit with the balancing of the skill level. So the information is right in front of you as you're building your schedule. All right. So then, of course, we are, in fact, looking at everything by hours. So that's why in the column at the top, you're going to see the hours of your day. So what you're seeing here also, if you'll notice here, everything after 2 a.m. is all grayed out. And if I actually move the slide to the left, you're going to see everything prior to 9 a.m. is also grayed out. That is based on your scheduling hours. So again, if you remember when we went into time management in File and Setup, here we put in what is our start and our end time. Again, that's not the opening hours of the restaurant. That is for labor purposes and for scheduling purposes. How early will I have somebody clock in and how late will I have somebody clock out? So that is what's determining that time frame. Also, again, here, the intervals for the hour, that is why we're defaulting to an hour as opposed to the 30-minute or 15-minute increments. But again, you can change it. Days to load also. It'll load up 7 days. Even though we are scheduling day by day by day, we're still telling it to load 7 days. If you wanted to load 14 days, you could change that setting as well. And now the skill indicator, this is why it is appearing on the schedule, because we have, in fact, said yes, we wanted it to appear. All right, so just to refresh your memory on some of those settings. So let's go back into employee, and we'll go back into scheduling. And again, I'm going to choose the 27th. Let that load back up again. Okay, so now our next line, number of shifts base and forecast, offset by forecast. So the first digit is how many shifts have I ever scheduled for that particular day. So you'll see all my zeros here. Here I've got 1 because I've got 1 shift scheduled. Here I've got 1 because I have 1 shift scheduled there. The second digit, the forecasting, has to do with the forecasting system. As you move through the system and as the system starts gathering information, you can also set up forecasts. So that number is going to represent within your forecast how many people or how many shifts did you think you needed for coverage, how much coverage did you need for that time frame. And that is something that you will do, again, when you're working with the forecasting piece. Now, if I click on this line, double-click on it, it's going to switch over to total wages. How much in total wages am I spending for this time frame? So here you'll see 4. So obviously, I am paying $4 an hour to this person, because I only have one person, Janet, who is scheduled to work at that time frame. So you have the ability to toggle between what is that time frame costing me in hours, and clicking on it again based on shifts, based on forecast. How many people did I? Down here at the lower left-hand side, you're going to see more statistical analysis here. So it is telling me I have a total of 2 shifts scheduled. I'm covering 9 hours. Current day wages is $38. Wages for the schedule is $38. Because on this particular schedule, I only have, or this particular day, I only have two shifts scheduled so far. It's giving you your selected day that we're actually working on. So in case I missed it up here, I can see here what day I'm actually looking at and the scheduled shift times that I've actually worked on so far. All right. So now here you have our grid. And you know what I'm going to do? Let's see if I can. Oh, I can't really manipulate that right now. Sorry, folks. This little legend is, what does all of the lines stand for? This is what it's all indicating. So anything that has a red line through means that they cannot work. Now, again, this is based off of the preferences that you built in for that particular employee. And you can interpret that however you want it. If I, as an owner, have put down that they can't work, do I interpret that as they absolutely cannot work, or do I interpret that as that they request not to work those hours? Again, that's up to the owner of that restaurant to determine, but we are going to put red X's through that time frame to show you that as far as their preferences are concerned, they've asked not to work. But if I needed to, I could assign them a shift. Okay? That doesn't lock you out from assigning a shift. It's just telling you that they've opted not to. The line through means not wanted, not wanted. So they did not want to work on that day also. So that would show a request. They've requested not to work that day as opposed to these are the days that you put into the preferences. Okay? Shift is that. This is a shift that I've scheduled. I have scheduled Janet this shift that works from 7 p.m. until 1 a.m. Vacation, if I would have made a shift into vacation. So let's just say, for sake of argument, that Betty here, she is taking vacation. So what you can do is you can go ahead, and there's a couple ways of scheduling a shift. I can just click, I'm holding down my left mouse button, and I'm just selecting the entire time frame. I can do any amount that I want. And then I can click this button here that says As Selected. Okay. Now it's going to pop up and give me a warning in case there is something involved. This shift contains hours during which Betty cannot work. Continue, yes or no. So that's what I want to show you, that you can, again, override the suggestion that's based off of what you've put in for their preferences. If I say yes, it's going to go ahead. And now you'll see that that's a big green shift, which stands for a shift. Now, by default, it is automatically scheduling that as a regular working shift. But if I want to change it, there's a couple of ways you can edit it. I can double-click on it, and it's going to bring me up my little modification window. So from here, I could go ahead and I could take this, and I can change that to vacation. Or I can change it to time off or working at another store. Those are the defaults that we've set up in our system. I'm going to choose to take it as vacation and click OK. The shift contains cannot work, continue. It's still telling me that there's hours that they can't work in there. But again, we're going to override that because we're turning it into a vacation shift. So now you can see that that's vacation. The other option is, you can see here for Hannah, oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. So for Hannah, you can see here that she has the shift that's in yellow. Now again, it's also a time frame that she requested not to work. That is time off. I'm actually granting that as time off. So this I granted as time off as opposed to the lines through it, which is a request for vacation, that I just basically said that they don't want to work. So again, you've got vacation requests, you've got time off requests, you've got their requests to say that I don't want to work. Again, informational here. So if I wanted to grant this, I can paint over it again, and I could, and at that point, I could click on it, right-click on it, and it's going to bring up my mini menu, and I can hit Add Shift. Again, by default, it wants to add it as a regular shift. But again, I could either double-click on that, or I could right-click again, and I can click Modify. And then I can come down to this listing here, and I can change the time, the date, the time of it, because maybe I'm in the wrong day. In this case, again, I want to change the shift, and I'm going to just put it as time off. Okay. My other option in my right-click menu was to delete the shift entirely, or maybe I just wanted to go right to shift type. So instead of doing the modify window, the only thing I wanted to change is the shift type, I could actually go to the shift type. Now this will bring up that shift type window. Now there's a couple of things we can do in this as well. Not only can I change the shift for this particular employee, but since I'm in here, I can also modify shifts. I can modify this entire little menu here if I so chose to. So with my arrow keys, it's going to take me through all. You'll notice this is one of the few areas where you don't have your flashlight, so you can't search and pull up the grid that's going to show everything. The way to go through your shift types is to literally hit your arrow keys. So when it comes to setting up your shift types, you put in what the description is. So we're just by generic calling it shift. Now they can call it anything that they want to. They can change that at the store level. And the color. So our little legend here, we can control what the colors look like. And if I just click on that, it's going to bring me up my color grid, and I can pick any color that I choose off of the color grid. Okay? Is active. Is this a shift type that I am currently using? So again, we don't have our traditional little checkbox over through here. This isn't active. We've put it down through here instead. But it's the same functionality that we have everywhere else. And can work. Is this a shift? We're basically saying that this is a working shift. As opposed to, if I go to, say, vacation time, it's not a working shift. So I'm not going to count it as that. We're telling the system that this is the functionality that is to say a non-working shift. Okay? And again, you can sort through. And again, we got time off. That's not it's a non-working shift. Working at another store would be considered a working shift. You could have jury duty in here. And if there's any, whatever the customer might need to break down the types of shifts or indicators that he would want to put, he or she would want to put on a schedule, you can create a shift type for all of that. Okay? All right. So that's how you can assign a shift of any kind. So again, I can right-click, paint the hours that I'm looking for, and then use my As Select button. Other options I can do, you'll notice that we have to open, and this is to close. I'm sorry. My screen refresh is being a little hinky right now. Let's go out of there for a second, go back in, and let it repaint itself. There we go. So we've got to close or to open. So if I say for Emma, I click at 4 o'clock. Now just by clicking, that will add a shift. If I click to close, that shift now, and again it's telling me that she's requested not to work, I'm going to say that's okay, I still want to do it. It will automatically extend that shift to the closing hours. So if you're going to add a closing shift for somebody, you just click in the space where you're going to start them, and then you can click the till close option to extend that shift. And the other option we have is to open. So maybe I'm going to say 2 p.m. for Carla, and I'm going to click to open. Automatically the system is going to then drag that shift over to the opening shift. So it makes it a little easier when people are doing their schedules to put in their opening and their closing shifts, and then fill in the rest with the other requests that possibly the employees might have. Okay, so just a little quick, easy button, if you will. Modify shift. Highlight the shift and click Modify. This, again, will also bring up your little adjustment window. So, again, that gives you 3 ways now of adjusting a shift. You can use the shortcut button there. You could just double-click on the shift to have the shift list come up. You can right-click on the shift and modify it through there. And actually, there's a 4th way. We can go up into Scheduler, and we can modify shift through here. So all the buttons that we're seeing on our taskbar and all the right clicks that I've been doing so far, we have all those options within the scheduling menu. All right. Again, delete a shift. So I'm going to take away this particular shift because I've obviously already put in here that you want a time off. So I'm going to delete. Are you sure you want to delete? Yes, I am. And that's going to take that shift away for us. Okay. Show employees. So right now, I'm seeing all of my employees over here on my right-hand side as I do my schedules. But if I want to get a little bit better of a view of that, if you will, I can click Show Employee. It's going to bring me up a mini window. So I've highlighted Hannah. So now this is going to show me all of the hours that I have scheduled for Hannah for that 7 days. Again, because we've chosen 7 days as our scheduling default. And again, here I can look at my employee preferences. So even though I'm seeing the X's and the Y's on my schedule on that particular day, I can again go through an overview of what it is that I initially set up for her. And if I realize that I've made a mistake, or maybe she's put in a scheduling change request form, I can go through here and then I can make the adjustments here. This again will carry over globally. It doesn't just affect itself for this one particular day or this one particular week or this one particular payroll cycle. Okay. Okay, print is going to print the schedule, so this needs an 80-column printer attached to it. You also could export it if you wanted to. All right, copy schedule, that would be copying the schedule from day to day or week to week. A lot of places, so copy shifts from previous period. So basically this will take your period. When we set up in our particular scenario, even though we're playing on 7 days, it's a 14-day period. Again, going back to your payroll cycle, we can literally copy from one to the next. And then what you can do is you could modify that week. So if you have a smaller style restaurant, you tend to probably have most people working the same shifts. It's pretty customized for that to have happen, or pretty similar to that to have happen. So it saves you from having to start from scratch. You can just copy from the previous period and then make adjustments accordingly. And for this case, I'm going to say no. And exit is just exit. Okay, so you'll notice some of the changes here. So since I've scheduled Janet, now she's up to 7 hours of the 60 hours that she's requested, and Edward's up to 10 hours of the 40 hours that he's requested so far. All right, so let's go through this menu here real fast. So we've already talked about loading schedule, picking the day of the week that I want to work on as selected. So again, that is allowing you to highlight, hold down your right mouse or your left mouse button key and highlight the hours that you want to work off of, and then click as selected and automatically applying. To close, to open, modify, delete. Those aren't highlighted right now because I'm not highlighting on an actual shift. Show employee shifts, the same as this employee button over here. Okay. Shift type setup. So this is that little window that I brought up with the different types of shifts that we have and being able to modify and adjust them. General setup. This is that same setup screen that we saw over at time management. So you don't necessarily have to go out to time management. If you want to make an adjustment, you can make the adjustment here. But I wanted to correlate that too for you. Oh, sorry, it's repainting. Give it a minute. Oh, come on. I apologize, folks. I seem to have, it seems to be frozen. Yes, that happens to all of us. Let's get back in there again. And this has more to do, folks, just so you know, that this has to do with me running in a virtual environment, and the graphics that are within scheduling is why that technical difficulty popped up. There we go. All right. And let me go back to the 27th. There we go. Now you'll notice all of my changes are here, even though I ended up basically crashing. All my changes are here because we write to the schedule every time. You don't have a save button where you would have lost those changes. Okay, back to our modifier here. So we talked about setup, template setup, and forecasting setup. Okay, so I'm going to hold off on that until I take you through the other tabs. So let's actually do that right now. So we've already talked about this layout here. If I want to switch over to scheduled shift times, this again, instead of showing me the lines and who's working and who's not working, this is just a clean version to see by days of the week notice what I've got scheduled, what shifts I have scheduled. This is probably going to reflect more so what the actual printed schedule looks like, so you can validate the schedule that way also. Templates. So we can build templates that will allow you to go in and say, forget who, how many. So for instance, you'll see I have a template over here that's built. So for all positions, I've said that on this particular day that I need 8 people working, and I've broken it out by job types. So I need 2 people that are clock in and clock out only. I need 1 management staff, I need 2 cashiers, and I need 3 wait staffs. And over here what you're seeing is, again, my staff listed by job type. So it starts off with normal wait staff. But if I switch over to cashiers, you'll see all of my employees that are cashiers are going to be listed. Management staff and clock in and clock only staff. So if I want to assign my clock in and clock only staff, who's going to work that day, I'm going to say Janet. So all I'm doing is right-clicking and dragging, or actually I'm going to click on Janet and click Add. So I'm going to give it a minute. Now you'll notice now where it said no employee, now that's Janet. So for my next one, I'm going to put Kelly on, and I'm going to add. Now mind you, again, notice these are preset shifts. You're not adjusting the shifts as you're putting them in. You've already gone out for your template and said, I need this many people to work. This is what I need for hour coverage. Management staff, I'm going to say that Frank is going to be my manager that day. Actually, and for my cashiers, we're going to put Darlene on, and we're going to put Paul on. So this is another quick way, as long as you have your template built and it matches up to what your restaurant need is, this is a nice, quick, easy way of building a schedule. And again, and this works if you have set shifts. All right, and we're going to put one more. Let's put, did I do Emma? Nope, I haven't done Emma yet. Okay, so now my schedule is built using my template. Now if I go back to schedule, you're going to see now everything that I did all comes through here. All right, so now that template, where did we come up with those settings? How did I know I needed 8 people, if you will, in the various breakdowns? Well, this is why. So you come into templates, and then for the days of your week, and again, you can name them accordingly. So I'm saying on Wednesday, for Wednesday, this is what I said I needed. Now I can edit that. So if I want to change up my numbers, now it's default. You'll notice how everything is grayed out because I'm in this particular template, and I've already scheduled on this particular template. I can't change the template because I've already scheduled on it, and I'm in the middle of a pay cycle. Let's go to, say, Thursday. Okay, I've got nothing here for Thursday. So I want to edit this. I must have a security setting that's off. I apologize. Fixed or custom. Well, this is, and it's because I'm in the middle of a pay cycle. Once you're in the middle of a pay cycle, it's a little more difficult to go in here and try to edit some of this. So let's actually create a new template. So, and we're going to do custom. I can do fixed or I can do custom. Okay, and if I do custom, I can name it. If I do fixed, I can say Sunday. And there's my date and my times, my end date and my start date. Template, so that's not going to let me because it's already in there. So let's do this. Sunday, and I'm going to delete it. And now we'll do this again. Okay, so here you can see where basically what it did is it copied over what the base in there was. But now if I want to change this, double-clicking on it. So for my clock-in people, maybe I only need 1 person. And for my normal staff, I need 3, but I'm going to do a 9 to 2. So basically it's looking at your schedule and it's looking to see all the different job types that you had. For cooks, which I don't have on my schedule, I'm going to add cooks. I'm going to say I need 3 cooks. and maybe this is going to be 10 to 5. Okay, so now the challenge, I should say, why this didn't pop up is I never really created. I didn't assign anybody to be a cook, so that's one of the challenges. But this is where you can go in and you can make adjustments and you can build your schedule accordingly. Now you'll notice that time frame. You will need to do like an AM and a PM, if you will, in order to be able to assign the different staff members accordingly. Okay. All right. So then the other view is forecast. So in forecast, you have graphs and you have data. So we haven't pulled anything over yet. All right. So the forecast will generate itself. It will build itself. And you can go in and you can tell the system, or I should say it will by default go back, I want to say, and look back to as many as 3 days or 3 weeks. So you have your build forecast button here. So you needed it. So this hasn't been done at all. So here's where it's going to bring up all of my employees, actual and forecast, for every job type, every job position that I've created in the system. Okay, so there's my cook and everyone else in the system. Okay, so where it's getting these numbers from, so you'll notice that in forecasting, it's got nothing in here. That's because I have no data in the system. But as you put data in the system, it will automatically come through for you. And you can forecast, it goes back out and looks at the past 3 schedules. So when I go over to graph now, you can see how it has filled in what the forecasting is, and it also is showing me what I've actually scheduled. So the blue are what I've actually scheduled, and you'll notice that where it says zeros, that's because I have nothing in my forecast right now, but that would show up in, I believe it's in green that shows up in, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so here you can see actually it did come across in a forecast 3 based on just clock in and clock out employees. So it's telling me here I'm a -1, here I'm a -1, here I'm a -3 because I have not scheduled anything for these hours. Okay, so you can use the forecasting. So if I go into forecast setup, this is where you tell it the days of your week. So how many weeks do you want to go back to? So I said most of the time as an average would say 3, but I've actually chosen 4. So it's going to go back to 4 schedules, not 4 weeks, but 4 schedules, and get an estimate of that. And then in terms of the adjustment, no adjustment is going to just take an average of whatever number of schedules that you did. If I want to say adjust it, so maybe I have an event coming up. Maybe it's going to be 4th of July, or maybe there's sporting events going on. You're hosting the World Soccer event, or you're hosting the Olympics. So you know that this particular week is going to be crazy. So you want to up your sales average, say by 10%. You can do that. Also through here where it says required employees, which employees do you want to be a part of the scheduling? And again, how many do you need? And then hourly sales. So this is something for anyone that's a sales generating employee, basically. You can go in and say, based on hours, you expect them to bring in, hourly sales amounts based on $1,000 increments or $2,000 increments, or maybe you want to do it in $100 increments, depending on what the menu is. This is where you would set up what that is, and then it does its calculation with that, and then also based on the values that are going to come in. So if you'll notice here, it's even telling me the number of employees required per hourly amount of sales. For example, a store requires 2 waitresses per $1,000, 1 manager per $1,500. So that's where you're setting up that ratio, if you will, to the sales when you're building your forecasting. So forecast setup, you build what you want your balances to be, and then when you're actually building your schedule, building the forecast then populates what you need. And again, because I've already scheduled some people, you can do the regular schedule through here and start adding people through it. You could copy a schedule. You could use the template and fill in the template and then go to forecast, build the forecast, and then see how you're hitting your marks. Okay? But again, also remember, if you will, over through here, if I do a number of shifts based on forecast, I am also here going to see that forecasting information as well once that's been populated. All right, so that is schedules. I think that covers all the bells and whistles of it and what you can do and how you play with it. All right, and we're going to exit out of there. Okay, Now we're going to get into members. So member setup. All right, so, and with version 12, there have been some very significant member changes that I know people have been asking for. So as we go through this, I'm going to point out what some of those changes are. But let's go through all the setup first. Member group setup. So this is where you can set up. Again, members are used in Pixel for a variety of things. The whole member setup piece is used for a variety of things. It's used for reservations. It's used for loyalty programs. It's used for gift certificates, selling of gift certificates in store as opposed to using an external gift card program. It's used in our delivery modules and interface, and it's also used in our takeout. So it has multi-functioning and multi-purpose. It's just how you plan on using it in that particular restaurant that you need to determine what functionalities you might need. So member group setup, this to me really more goes, it's very, it's for loyalty. So you're going to do a loyalty type program or a customer retention type program. And you might have multiple versions out there that you want to do. You may want to do one that's for students. You may have one that's for senior citizens. You may be in a country club, and there are multiple membership levels that people pay for. There's gold, platinum, and silver. And based on which one that they actually pay for at that particular country club, you determine what their benefits are. Like anything, the more you pay, sometimes the bigger benefits that you get. So this is where you would set up all those different groups, all that different breakout, if you will. And again, we do have our flashlight back here so we can search. So in this particular setup, I've got business, senior, students, and VIP. And here you can go through, obviously you put their names in, what you're calling the group, I should say, what you're calling the program is active. That's standard throughout the system. Tax exempt are anyone, like I have 3 taxes set up in this particular system, so this populates based on the tax fields that you've set up. State, federal, and liquor. For this VIP group, are they exempt from paying any of these taxes? So whereas the main system tax setup will apply to everyone else, for this particular group, you can set up what tax setup they could possibly be exempt from. And that would override what you have set up in your sales departments and also the overall system setup. It would not override product. Actually, yes, it would. It would override product as well. Okay. Point rates. So points, when you're doing a point-based program, you set up points on the menu items themselves. Lobster equals, say, 50 points. A ribeye steak is worth 25 points. A hamburger is worth 10 points. This sets up the ratio. So if it's a 1-to-1 ratio, you're going to put in 1. But for my VIP, I basically said it is worth 5 times what that item product point is. So for my lobster, that is worth 50 points. It's going to be 50 times 5 is how many points that particular customer, any member that's assigned to this group will earn. If it's my hamburger again is worth 10 points. They're going to get 5 times 10, which would be 50 points. So they earn 50 points for that hamburger, as opposed to, say, my student, maybe my student only earns 1-to-1. So they're only going to earn 10 points for that particular product. Okay? Auto-apply coupon. If you have a member coupon, a coupon that you've set up as a member, that deducts a certain amount of points, or maybe it's just no points is being deducted, you're just going to give it to them. This box will automatically apply it. If there's a member on that check that's assigned to this particular group, then that coupon will automatically get applied. Okay? Member pricing for default. So as a default, member pricing, we talked about how you can set up pricing based on stations. So determine which station you're on. So if I have a room service system and it's in the room service, typically they're like little closets in the back somewhere. Only room services are ordered on that particular station. You can tell it there what price list to go to. You can also point to price lists based on sales department. Here's another way you can set up your price list, and where you tell it it's based on members and assigned to specific groups. So this particular group, so maybe my student groups, my students defer to price group C. Because maybe I do give a discount to anybody that's a student that has signed up as a student. They have a loyalty with me as a student. And instead of doing coupons and whatnot, I'm just going to assign them to price list C. And maybe price list C, every item is 50 cents cheaper or $1 cheaper or whatever the case is. Okay, so you can also set it up that way. Okay, and cancel that change. All right, so that's setting up your groups. Okay. Other thing you're going to set up is company. So you're going to set up the various companies that multiple people can be assigned to. So you can do discounts based on companies. So maybe you have a program going on with IBM where they have lunch vouchers because you want to bring in the IBM business. Or Joe's Hardware Store. You have a deal going on with Joe's Hardware Store where all their employees are going to get some type of a discount. So again, you can set up members, you can set up groups, and you can set up based on companies. Okay, the other one I want to go through before I go further is delivery zones. So this specifically works with our delivery system. So you set up the zones. So the nice thing about zones, and again, notice this is very simplistic. It's just a description and a color. This completely affects on POS. You define what those zones are. So if you have a restaurant that has a very large delivery area, and you decide the east side of town is going to be zone A, or maybe instead of calling it zones, maybe you literally do say east side. Oops, if you can type that is. Okay, and again, my description and my box. All right, so I'm going to break things out by east side, west side, north side. I'm going to break it out maybe by neighborhoods. Maybe I've got Brookside, or I've got Northridge, or Southridge, etc. You're basically predefining the areas, so then when you do assign the delivery driver to the ticket, you are assigning all orders that go in a certain area, a certain delivery zone, instead of having your two delivery drivers crisscrossing paths and driving all over the place. Okay, so that's where you set all that up. So now that you've set up your basic structure, now we can go into actual member setup. So within member setup, when you first come into the system, you're always looking at a default member, and you need to keep a default member in it. And basically what your default member is all your default settings. You could go ahead and put in maybe what your state is. Maybe you only work with one city. What are the defaults in your area that you want? So for every member, every new member that you add to the system, it assumes those defaults, okay? But again, that's just for the default. You never want to take your default employee and turn it into or default member and turn it into a real member, because then that will give you some challenges at some point in the system. So again, this is all about default settings. Okay, so when I come in here, I have a couple of things. You'll notice the tabs across the top, but I'm also automatically sort of in a search window, if you will. So I can search by last name, or I can pull down my drop-down box. I can search by any one of these fields by default. Okay, if I want to search by city. And then over through here, I can type in what that particular maybe city is. Last name, first name, etc. If I don't have that information, I just want to look at everybody, I can do show all. So show all, well, oops, so by city, I've got it sorting right now by city. It's going to show everybody by city. If I go back up to the last name, which is what we normally look at, show all, it's going to show me everybody by last name, first name. I can also click on top, so I can alphabetize as well. Once I see all my members, I can then select on one, and then I'll be able to actually see everything in their record. So I can double click on it, and it's going to bring me their information. Now again, I have my scroll bars at the bottom, so notice we don't have our flashlight because we're doing this option for search as opposed to our typical standard option for searching. Okay, I can also scroll through, which is just going to take me through. And I can just click, and it'll take me through just like all the others do. Okay, so let me bring us to one that actually has some fairly good information. So Barney has pretty good information. So first thing you can do is you can do your salutation if you so chose. First name and last name, the group that Barney's assigned to. Now notice they can only still be assigned to one group. People cannot be assigned to two different types of group. I can't have an IBM worker. Barney works for IBM, so he's a part of the IBM group, but he also happens to be a senior, so he's a part of the senior group. Most businesses don't allow people to be a part of multiple loyalty programs, if you will, and unfortunately we still also stick to just one particular group as also. Company name, I can pick what company, if in fact maybe Barney is a part of this company. I can put that in there as well. Address, your city, province and state, zip code, home phone, business phone, cell phone, all that is pretty standard. Card number, if you're going to be giving members a number. Now, a lot of loyalty programs will actually issue an actual card, just like we have cards for swipe cards. They'll issue an actual card. So you can hit, just like you do with employee assignment, a card assignment, If you're going to do a manual set of numbers, you can go ahead and type in what the manual number is. Or if you have a card, you can swipe the card. Okay? Reference number, again, internal reference number for reporting purposes. So maybe somehow you're linking this to your general ledger account. Because one other thing, and I didn't mention this, you can also use members for house accounts. So if you're going to establish a line of credit, so maybe the ABC company has a line of credit, and you're giving every employee a line of credit that maybe the store is going to bill back to the customer or bill back to the company, or it just automatically, they already have paid you X amount and you're just divvying it out amongst all of the employees. So that's one other purpose for this area is house accounts. All right, and email address. This comes in handy if we're going to do mass mailers. Right? Over through here is a gift certificate. So what that will do, and this goes back to what I was saying about house accounts, or if you're doing paper gift certificates, this will make it so that whatever your balance is becomes the balance of that gift certificate, or becomes the balance of that. It reflects the pre-purchase funds available basically before they walk in. How much do they have left? So let's just say for Barney, I've given him a credit limit of $200. So now that is his credit limit. His gift certificate, I can then, once I start doing things in the system, I'm going to go ahead and save that for him. As he starts rolling forward, this becomes more of a deductible. So as he starts purchasing things against his $200, this is how much he has left. Okay? Do not solicit. So if you are planning on doing mass mailers, this gives you the option, if you check mark that, saying that they are not eligible for mass mailers. They do not want to be a part of it. So there's another area when you generate that, Barney will be excluded from that list. You can also assign a picture. Okay. The part of the state information, if you will, is their unit number, say for their apartment, and if it's a secure building, what their buzzer code is. Okay, delivery zone. We're talking about that. So again, if you're doing delivery, you can go in here and you can pick what delivery zone that they're a part of. Member since, expiration date of said card, anniversary date, and birth date. So some more personal information for that particular customer. Okay. Ship to information. So this gives you the ability to have those delivery addresses. So this specifically affects delivery and also for your mailers as well. So you can go in here and you can put in multiple ship addresses per person. Right? And I'm going to just pick somebody who already has some of this stuff filled in already. Oh, come on already. Here's there he is. So Mr. Scott Dunlap. So he has 2 shipping addresses already. He has his AB client ship list, contact information that goes with that, and the actual address. Also, you'll notice we have directions. Or he also might have this option as well. So this is another shipping address option that he might have. Add and remove. So if I want a new shipping address, I can say Chicago address, put in their information, address, etc. What this will then do is for the delivery drivers, if you do use this functionality, there is a policy that you can set up so that on the front of the, back on POS, it's the show members ship to policy. If you have that triggered as on or yes, I believe it's a yes or no answer, it will then bring up that list for a delivery. So when I go and put in my delivery order, it's going to ask me which of my addresses is my delivery. So you can use shipping address as delivery address also. Okay. Notes, I'll go ahead and say yes. Notes is just putting in notes. So we have comments about this particular employee, or this particular customer, whether it's a delivery customer, loyalty member, etc. Personal information about them, maybe what their preferences are, if they're allergic to something. So maybe they want to try the special of the night, but in the note that it says that he's allergic to nuts, so you might want to steer him away from having that. Also, you have directions as well. So again, besides using the ship to addresses, if they so choose to, or you could just use the notes, and that might have more specific information about directions and where to, for the delivery driver. Stats is just that. Stats will go through and it will auto-populate as you build history for this particular member. As they bring in information, it will automatically fill in last visit, first visit, number of deliveries, last delivery, current level of points, points used, and totals. Okay? History is about their orders. So today, last 30 days, 60 days, or your choice of date range. You can filter the information based on sales or based on payment on account. So anybody that has a house account with you. And this is very similar to our transaction viewer in that you can look at either detailed transactions, you can look at their payment history, or this is the detailed transactions as well. So the actual products and quantities that they've ordered as opposed to generics with the opening and start times of the tickets, totals, points, redeemed points, etc. Okay? And advanced. So in advanced, this is some other options that you have. Now this is member specific. So we can do taxing member specific. So it would ignore whatever group they might be a part of. It'll ignore whatever the tax exempt situation is based on product or based on sales type. You can tell for this particular employee, this particular member, they have exemptions from any one of the taxes that you set up. We're also giving you an option here to put in whatever their exemption number is, because every place, states will give you an exemption number. And this activates it. So by clicking on Use Member Settings, this then becomes what we use for this particular customer and overrides all other settings. It doesn't matter what department they're in, what station they're ringing up on, or what the item settings are. It goes by these settings here. Okay, so that's member setup. Member browser. So this is where you can go in, and then you can also do an export. This is handy for mass mailers. So I've got two set up. By default is all active members. This is going to list everybody in my system that's active. Okay. Now you'll know that Barney is not on this list because we said no to no mailers for him, no solicitation. I also have a group called seniors that I created. So now this is showing me anybody that is assigned to the seniors list. If I wanted to break it down by my groups, I can hit add, and I can look for my name, so VIP. And it's then going to list for me anybody who is associated with the group's VIP. So you can add all of the different groups that you created in the other area. I can edit if I so chose to. I can remove entirely if I don't want it any longer. Okay. Then once my option is only, or now I could also sort. I'm going to go back to active so that it's easier for you all to see this. So you'll notice that this is showing me all my fields. But notice if I have anybody that doesn't have an email address. So if I show only with email addresses, click on that, that is going to now reduce my list to show me only members that I actually have an email address in here for. Okay? And here's my checkbox with only solicitation consent. So again, this goes back to their employee file. So if I uncheck that, now that's going to show me everybody. I'm going to check that too. And you'll notice how Barney showed back up again. Okay, but again, if I check with only solicitation consent, Barney then again goes off my list. Okay, now view-wise, this is giving me the details that I'm in right now. So large icon view, list view, another type of list view. So not a whole lot of variation in that, basically in the view list on that. Okay, this is by default what we're looking at. Export to file or write to Excel. So if I hit file, I can export it to an XML file, or maybe choose to an XML or a CSV file. If you have Excel loaded on the actual register that you're exporting to, if you hit Excel, now mind you, it's telling me I can't export to Excel because I do not have Excel loaded on my virtual, which is why it won't allow you to do that. But in most, depending on most places, they may not have it, so then you want to go ahead and do it to file. And again, you can always do a CSV file and then import that into Excel on another machine. So those are your mailing list capabilities. And maybe you don't want to just do it as a mailing list. You just want it, basically this is a nice way to do a nice member list, if you will. Okay, so there's all that. Now, in terms of functionality, some of the new functionality that we've put in here for members for version 12. One of the areas that's affected is in payment. If you have a house account, so if you have a payment type, if you're going to do house accounts where you're going to bill people later, allow them to charge to their account. In the past, if you're using swipe cards, you always had a prefix of 99. It always had to be set up as 99. Now you can set up any prefix you want for any cards that are out there. With the exception, though, they cannot have the same prefixes as are as credit cards do. You cannot use, say, 3 because Amex has 3. For the series of 4s that, say, Visa has. It still has to be a unique prefix. It cannot use up any of the prefixes that are associated with the standard commercial credit cards that are out there in the world right now. Okay. Now, to do that, though, you have to credit card. Nope, there's no restrictions on that. You just have to make sure that you don't use an existing credit card that's out, or credit card prefix that's out there. In policies, there's a number of new policies that we've put out there, and I'm just going to type in member. I'm not sure if it's going to go with my list that I have. So some of the new things that we have out there is member PIN restrictions. So if you are in a place that's using Quick Member, so let's just do this. So if you're using the functionality Quick Member, and basically Quick Member, and this is something that's always been in the system, or at least version, I forget what version, is basically saying when I'm going to go into member, how am I going to search? How am I going to search for that member? Is it going to go to the normal delivery screen, or do I want it to prompt immediately with either a phone number, swipe card, or last name? So instead of getting the member field, the member screen where at the bottom you get to choose how you want to search for a member, using the Quick Member functionality is going to automatically default to one of these 3 options. Automatically populate the phone list, automatically bring up the swipe card, or automatically bring up the last name search. Phone search, last name search, or bring up the swipe option. So as long as you have that turned on, in conjunction with that, there is another new security that goes with that called Assign PIN. Assign new member PIN. This is a 4-digit code that says if I'm going to go with, and I'm not finding it right now, folks, it'll turn on PIN. So if you're using Quick Member with phone number, or with member card, excuse me, that is basically, it's enforcing that the member has their card with them. If they don't have their card with them and they want to go manually, they want you to go in with their phone number, or they want you to go in with their member number, this will activate a new field called PIN. So for every member, you would, in their member records, you would also assign a PIN number. Think of it as like a debit card check reference. So if you had to do a manual entry, we would require you to have, or the member, to provide you with what their security PIN is. And this disallows anyone else from using their numbers. Someone stole their card, whatever the case may be. Employee theft, that type of stuff. So it enforces an extra level of security that if you, again, are using Quick Member, that you require a PIN for any manually entered member information. Okay? There's a functionality. Let's see if I have it. I upgraded my system, but I don't know that I brought down the latest. Aha! Ask for member PIN. So right now I have it set for no. If I turn that on to yes, go back into member setup, it's going to bring you, it's enabling another member validation functionality. Okay? Other piece is strict Quick Member enforcement. What that does is, I'm using, again, Quick Member, it pops up, it brings me to either my card screen, or it's going to bring me to my phone number search screen. If I cancel out, I don't have the number, I don't have the phone number, etc., typically what it would do is leave you in the member screen. And then you could still stay in member functionality and look at other things. By turning this functionality on, strict Quick Member, it automatically will take you back to the previous screen. So if you were in the order screen, it's going to put you back on the order screen. Whatever screen you were in when you access member, it's going to take you back there if you hit cancel within the search box. Okay? The other big thing is redeeming of points. So with the redeeming of points now, in the past, the system would allow you to redeem current points that were just gathered. So I ordered that lobster, I just earned 50 points. Hey, that took me to the place where now I am eligible for a 10% discount, or maybe I have a 10% coupon that's an auto apply out there. So now you have the option to disallow that. And that would be with the allow current, let's see what that gets me. Allow current transaction points. So if enable, allow member points earned on current transactions to be redeemed on the close of that transaction. So I can use them immediately. Again, if you turn that to no, then it's back to the default way the system has been previously. and that is that they cannot use them on the current transaction, and they are redeemable on their next visit. So that is the new functionality that everybody has been asking for with that. Another new functionality has to do with kiosks. So now, and allow point read M. Oh, come on now. Allow points. There we go. Allow points redemption in kiosks. So now if anyone is using a kiosk station, if we flag this to yes, and mind you, notice the default is no, but if it's flagged to yes, then on any kiosk system, as the customer is putting in their order, it's going to come up and pop up and give them the option to redeem any of their client coupons. Okay. Another new field that we have now is you can also search by members by company name. And I couldn't find that there's a policy for that, but you can search by them with that one. Okay, and we did the strict, enable quick member policy, set to 0 number from previous screen. Okay, so that, I believe, covers all of the new functionality with the exception of, and this is order setup. No, there will be a flag here. So earning points, when you set up your member point system, you decide if you can do it by product or by amount. Again, product being the points that you assign to a product or by the amount. So again, there's two ways of doing the program. It's either by points earned based on products or based on how much money you how much the customer actually spends. There's then going to be the option, and I apologize, my upgrade is missing this right now. I'm missing a setting here, where it's going to give you the option to round. So it will give you the option for this is strictly with amount. So when you go amount, it gives you the option again, what is the number of points per dollar? So if I am going to do a 1-to-1 dollar ratio, so for every dollar they get a point, or maybe they get 5 points for every dollar spent, etc. All right, so there's that. But there's another functionality now that will pop up that says rounding. So if the check is $16.99, it will round up to, say, $7. And so in my world here, it would be $7 times 5. If you don't click it, then it's going to round down. So if it was say $6.50, then it'll round down to 6. So that's another new functionality that, unfortunately, I don't have. It's not showing up on my grid right now. But there's a tick box that will allow you to do that rounding. And also do net or gross on the dollars. So is it net or is it gross? So that is also another new functionality that's in version 12 that has to do with member setup. And I apologize, my upgrade wasn't as successful as I was hoping it was going to be. I tried to get in the newest and latest, but it didn't take. Okay, so that is it for members. That's all the new stuff with members. All right, let's go ahead and take our break. It's 12:04, and we'll see everybody back at, excuse me, it's 4 minutes past the hour, so we'll see everybody back at 9 minutes past the hour. Okay, welcome back, everybody. All right, so we finished off members. We finished off everything to do with employees, with the exception of cash management, which I'm going to come back to. And we're going to jump over into products. So products, you can see, is a drop-down menu. There's a variety of settings to deal with in products. So product setup is the actual setting up of the products, but I'm going to go through some of the other setup pieces that we have in here too, and also some of the generic things that are in here as well. Refund reasons. So everybody gets really confused with this one. Refund reasons really out on the point of sale are void reasons. Anytime you're going to void an item on a ticket. Not to be confused with when you go into, say, manager settings or into table settings and you have a refund item or refund hold check. That is something entirely different. These refund reasons are for voids. And basically, again, I can do my search lights. You can set up multiple ones. So anytime a staff member goes into the finish screen, so not pre-void. So if I'm in my order screen and I order something and oops, that's something I wanted, I can hit void right then and there in my ticket, and it's going to automatically come off without any answers. But if I take it a step further, if I go into my finish screen, or if I print the check, or send the order without printing the check, anytime the system, in fact, deems it as written, if you will, to the database, then you have these refunds or these void reasons that will pop up. And for each one of the reasons, you can obviously put in what you want to call it. And then you have a couple of options. Reduce inventory. Depending on the type of refund or void that you're doing, was the item, if you're using inventory, was it taken out of inventory? Was the item made? Are we talking void as a customer changed their mind prior to the kitchen dropping the steak on the grill, or prior to the bartender making that cocktail? Yes or no? And does it affect inventory? If items were taken out of inventory, if it was already made and you're about to throw it away, then you'd want to, for that particular reason, say yes, reduce inventory. If it's a refund, a preemptive refund, if you will, before any product was sold, any product was used, then you'd want to not check that off as reduce inventory. Print refund on receipt. Do I want to show the customer that there was a void made? So in some respects, depending on which way you're going to use it, if it's a customer complaint, so the customer is sending it back, you may want that to show up on the check because you want to assure the customer that, in fact, it was taken off of their ticket. If it was a mistake that was caught by the server prior to, without the knowledge of the customer, that was one that you might not want to have on the ticket. Print refund on print channels. Do I want the refund ticket, the void ticket, to go back into the kitchen? So if I've ordered the lobster, do I want them to get a ticket to confirm what I verbally told them not to do, or does the kitchen not want that? A lot of restaurants that have expediters working and that the servers actually work with the expediter, they sometimes don't want it, and sometimes they do because they want to confirm that, in fact, it was removed from the ticket. Okay? And minimum security level. What security level do you have to be in order to apply this refund reason without needing a manager's intervention, without it asking you for the override? And you can do that for every one of your refunds, including our standard is active. Okay, so there's our refund reasons. I'm going to hold up on order pages. So when you're first setting up your menu, there's a couple of groups that you want to build first. So your summary groups. This is your basics, and this affects reports. Everything is sort of like a hierarchy of something else, and you can always drill down to a lowest level, but you want to build that basic hierarchy. So our basic hierarchy that's set up in the system is food, beverage, liquor, merchandise, and other. So when you go to your summary group, this is, again, when you want to kind of keep it simple. So a lot of this is going to match. You'll notice I have food, I have bar, I have beverages, other, and rated. Rated items. Rated items are, I think I expressed this once already, is things that you charge hourly. That is used commonly in, say, pool halls and bowling alleys, where you rent the bowling lane by the hour, or you rent the pool table by the hour, or 50 minutes, or however the increments they have it, where you apply a charge that's an hourly charge to whatever the activity might be. Ice skating, you know, you could be at a batter's box, anything along those lines. Okay? So I always think of these sort of as global categories: food, beverage, liquor, and merchandise. So I may want a little bit more to that. So for instance, I've got bar items. That's attributed to liquor. Maybe I wanted to get a little bit more inventive with the bar items, and I really did want to break down liquor, wine, and beer. Because then maybe in my other categories, I literally break it down by my beers. Maybe I go domestic versus import. For my liquors, I go premium versus rail, high-end. Beer, wines, I break down by reds versus whites. Or again, I do it on a cost level, premiums again versus standards. However you want to do it, you're breaking it down. So again, you'll notice that we've got rated as other, merchandise, etc. So these are just your summary groups when you look at this. This all has to do with how they work on the reports. So once you get those levels built in, then you want to go to your report categories. And this is where you really can break it down at your finite detail. So not only do you want to break it down for reporting purposes, but you also want to think in terms of defaults to that particular grouping. So for instance, appetizers. A lot of people like to track what are my appetizer sales separate from my entree sales. Some people want to take entree sales and maybe break it down, say, from pasta to grill items from steaks. It all depends on how much detail that particular customer is looking for. And again, so some of the other things that we also do with those is we're going to assign them back to one of the summary groups that we were just in, one of the summary groups we just set up. Because again, I want to drill down by appetizers, but in the end, I want to look at total food sales. Default revenue center. So again, if I'm in my coffee shop or my hotel and I have my coffee shop and I have specific items that are just for that, and I'm actually literally creating a report category group for that, then this is where I want to assign that to. One that comes to mind is, say, gift shop. A lot of hotels have little, gift shops, and they have sell sundries and things of that nature. So I may do a default revenue center for them, plus I may have a report category that is just for them. Now, that may be assigned then also to my merchandising category if I had created one, because maybe I also sell merchandise in my sports bar. I sell T-shirts and hats there, and I want to separate out. I want a real distinctive separation between merchandise that's, say, sold in my sports bar and merchandise that's sold in my gift shop. So think of it in terms of that. Default printer location. So every item that's a part of this report category, I'm basically saying its default printing location is the kitchen. If I hit my printer button, this is where you can assign items to print to multiple printers. So if I did have an expediting printer, I could tell it to print all appetizers both to my kitchen printer and also to my expediting printer. If I have hot and cold stations, and that's how I break down my remote printing settings, I again can tell, and this is generic, this is we're saying again a default for all items that we're going to assign to the category of appetizers. By default, they print to these places. We can, though, customize that based on the item. You're looking for overall generics when you're dealing with this. Okay? And again, some places they may, for the report categories, they may want to break down by hot apps versus cold apps. And so then maybe in the summary groups, they created an appetizer category, which they would assign then to their global category of food. You got to think in terms of how they want the reports broken down first, how they look at their menu items and their product listings, and then you build backwards before you start creating. This is stuff that I always map out on paper first before I actually build it into the system. Okay? Default taxes. So again, by report category, you can assign taxes. So for instance, in the place that we do have state, federal, and say liquor tax, for food, I obviously am going to check off that it's going to the state tax. But for my beer and my wines, I'm going to pick liquor tax. Okay, again, this is overall global. You can, again, customize this based on a product setting and product items. Okay. The other thing that we have is our default modifier screens. So you can build modifier screens, and you can build unique modifier screens. I can have food modifier screens. Heck, I could have sandwich modifier screens that are different from burger modifier screens, that are different from, say, pasta modifier screens. Those are all defaults. And then what you do is by group, again, you assign what are those default pages that they're going to come to. So instead of for every individual menu item, you have to set up a forced question. You are already pre-setting up modifier screens so that based on the item they touch, the proper default modifier screen will pop up. So again, to be more realistic, I may have a very specific set of modifier screens that affect my breakfast items. And I'm not talking in terms of what specific. Like when I order the 3-egg breakfast, they're going to have specific force questions that apply to that. But breakfast items can have some very generic overall modifiers that all breakfast items might have. You know, extra butter, no butter, on the side, things of that nature. When you get into sandwiches, you know, maybe I have my very customized, all my sandwiches are, you know, my burgers are served this way on a particular Kaiser roll, things like that. But maybe I have a generic modifier window where I can switch out bread types. It's not something I do often, and it's not something I do for that specific item, but it's something they could do in general to any one of my sandwiches, switch out the type of breads they're having. Switch out different types of condiments that they might want, etc. So just very generic modifier screens. And this is where you can assign those specific generic, if you will, modifier screens to each of the specific report categories. As always, we have our is active. You can also schedule. So scheduling is telling the system what price grid this particular listing will use. So now you can do scheduling product specific, but you can also do scheduling that are item specific. So maybe in my bar, all of my appetizers will look to price group B. And again, if I'm doing this based on revenue center, this would be another way that you could set up your revenue center pricing, is by categories. So maybe my appetizers, you know, I'm using the same appetizers, and just in the coffee shop or just in the sports bar. I don't want to do a terminal specific. I don't want to, or station specific. I don't want to do it revenue center specific. I'm going to do it by report category specific. That and again, this is giving you more minute control. Appetizers within my coffee shop are always going to look at price group D. And again, maybe it's only on a certain day of the week that I can do that. So that's another way that you can customize the system. Okay, print priority. So the requisition tickets, the tickets that go to the kitchen, again, we can prioritize them by seating positions. We can do it by courses. The system, if you choose nothing, if I say this has an 8 in there, if it was set to nothing, that would do it based on the what we call the SNUM that's applied to the product. So it would print and sort by that SNUM. If I give it a printer priority here, I'm saying that appetizers are a print priority 8. So they are going to be 8th on my list of items that print. Okay? Remember, our printing priorities do work backwards. So the lower the number, the higher the print priority. Again, you can set it up, though, item specific to give certain things a little bit hierarchy. So maybe in my appetizers, I don't just want my appetizers to have a print priority of 8. I want my hot appetizers to say have a higher print priority, so maybe I'm going to make them a 12. And my cold appetizers are going to be a print priority of 7. Generic appetizers fall into 8, so they're in the middle. Again, there's multiple ways that you can set up your print priorities throughout the system. All right, and let's cancel that. So just to give you an idea, so for beer, I've set up a report category for beer. This one has state and federal tax highlighted off of it, and again, the modifier screens you'll notice are different. And what you're seeing here, these are screens that are already built. So any screen you build is what you're choosing from. These are the default ones that do come with the startup database for the most part that you can adjust. And again, as you create more screens, this listing will then show all the modifier screens that you've created in the system. And you'll notice I have no print priority on the beer items. All right, so you're setting up your summary groups, and then you set up your category groups. All right, so let's get into, I'm going to take us into product now. All right, so when you build products are your actual items. So I can get my flashlight, it's going to show me all of the menu items that I have built into the system. And we have a variety of types of menu items that you can put into the system, the flexibility that you have. Okay, notice through here we have a filter. So right now my filter is all categories. I can also then search by those report categories that I was just in. So again, you want to create all these first before you start adding in items. So let's say that I want to look at, again, we were just talking about appetizers. So what you see here, this is a default that we have in this startup database as appetizer. Type of product, option. Options are basically modifiers. Rung by themselves typically, and there's something you tack on. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to ring up my pasta primavera, but I actually want it as an appetizer because the whole table has decided that they want an appetizer version of pasta primavera. So that is an example of how you would set up something along those lines. Let's just go through all the different listings. I'm going to pick an actual item as opposed to a function. Let me find let's do soup. So mushroom soup. Now you'll notice I'm in appetizers. This is what this has done. It has sorted every single menu item that is in the appetizer report category. So that's why you're seeing a limited number of items. I don't see a burger in here. I can't get to my lobster from here. I'm filtering by report categories and showing me all items that are assigned to that grouping report categories. All right, so let me go back down, and we're going to, ooh, somebody screwed up their old school burger. That's not right. That doesn't belong there. See, it's going to make a liar out of me. Let's do our Greek salad. So description, printed description, and POS button name. You have 3 different labeling fields. Description is what is going to show up on the reports. It also is what we're seeing back here. When I search for something, I'm searching by its base description item. Printed description is what is going to show up on the requisition ticket that goes to the kitchen and also on your KDS systems if you're using kitchen video displays. And again, they can all be different. POS button is what is actually on the POS. What does the server see on the button out on the system? So I can change these up. Again, you're thinking in terms of real estate. So maybe in the kitchen I don't need to say Greek salad. I just need to say salad, sal. Pop back up. And again, my button, I can change what that says as well if I so chose, right? Your button, some of the options with your buttons, you can change your text color. So maybe I don't want that to be white. Maybe I want that to be black. You can change your color, the background color of the button. Okay, and this is item specific. All of this that you can do is item specific. Okay, I can add an image on my button. So if I have images in my system, I can go and find my images, and I can add that image to the actual button. So if you want that to show an actual picture of a salad or of a hamburger or of an ice cream cone, you can do all of that. Okay? Use the grid line. So this helps when you're actually placing the buttons on the screen. By using the grid lines, it's going to automatically snap that button to the grid lines on that screen. If you don't use grid lines, then you have the option to do the alignments, where you're telling it how you want it to align. Okay, that is something you really have to play with to determine how you like the look on the screen. And again, it's to keep things standardized and to keep them uniformed. Okay, so that's everything to do with your POS button. Okay, pricing. So we have 11 different pricing options here, and again, this all refers to all those different pricing, the schedule pricing lists that you've seen whenever I've gone into coupons, or I've gone just now into the category setup, etc., the report category setup. These are the different price lists that pop up. So you can have the same item. You're not having to reduplicate items and think in terms of inventory. When you have items that have the same recipe, I can have the same Greek salad. I'm sorry, guys, I have to change this button color. It's irritating me. I can have the same Greek salad in my coffee shop. Again, going back to my hotel scenario, coffee shop, my fine dining restaurant, and my casual restaurant. And same item, same, everything about the item functions exactly the same, but they all have different prices. My room service, etc. I all have different prices for all of these, and I can set that up. Okay. Modifier price also gives you that option that you find in a lot of times when you're dealing with modifiers, when you're doing it with forced questions. You have to have multiple modifier windows that pop up because every one of them has a different price. So I might charge 50 cents in my fine dining restaurant to add anchovies to the Greek salad. Maybe I only charge 25 cents in my sports bar, and I don't charge anything extra in my coffee shop. So when you create the forced question, you're telling it what you want the price for that modifier to be. Okay? Coming over through here, report category. What report category is this item a part of? Okay, Configuration category. Now this is a new functionality. Cancel that, get out of there, let me show you that, because I didn't go through that particular setting. So back in products, configuration category. So I can put in here different categories, again, category descriptions. I can change it up in terms of what their configuration is going to be. It's another level of organization that you can do on certain items. So maybe you'll see an example here of baked items. So maybe even though I assign this as a baked item, my appetizers, I have some that are baked, I have some that are grilled, and actually let's take it even further. Let's go appetizers. Maybe I didn't want to do report categories by cold apps and hot apps. I'm going to here do by category selections. I can do hot apps, cold apps, break it out that way. And then again, you'll notice I can now change up the printers again. So for my appetizer categories, my default printer could be the kitchen, or maybe it's the expediter. But then if I assign the baked category to it, I'm actually going to change that out and say, nope, anything that's a baked good or anything that's a grilled good actually goes to the grill printer. So this gives you, again, more flexibility in how you can manipulate the setup. It reduces some of the report categories that you have to have. Like, not everybody wants to see hot apps versus cold apps as a report category, and not everybody wants to go into each individual appetizer and have to set up by default or override the default on the settings. So this gives you that extra layer of override that we can do. So, you know, just to kind of make my point a little clearer, grilled app. And I'm going to say that, and this is going to be weird, but I'm going to say that all my grilled appetizers go to my pizza printer. And their modifier screens are the following. And notice you have 5 different choices. You don't have to use all of them. And maybe they have that taxing. And again, I can schedule through here too. Okay, so let me go back in my product setup now. And for my appetizers, now notice as soon as I got out of here, it automatically defaults the filter to all categories again. But I'm going to go to appetizers, and I'm going to search for, I'm looking for something I know for a fact is, tell me I don't have one that's in here. Well, let's just say for the sake of argument that our tomato soup goes to the grilled appetizer. It's considered a part of my grilled appetizers. So now what that does is it's going to override whatever my default settings in the appetizer report category are. It's going to override those. So it's going to say, aha, appetizers are all supposed to go to the kitchen printer. But for this particular one, because of the fact that it's a category of grilled apps, it is now going to print at the pizza printer instead. So that's another way that you can, or if the taxes are different, or any one of these options that were in there, or even, like I said, the modifier screen. We're just giving you another way of making to standardize things across the board without a lot of manipulation per item. Type of product. How does this button function? What is it? An ordering product is just that. It's your ordering product. It's your basic item that you're selling with a price associated with it. That is what an ordering product is. So it's your soup, it's your not your modifiers, it's your soup, it's your beer, it's your wine, it's your lobster. So that is the main item that you're selling, and all the different functions that go with it. Like it wants to, it'll absorb a seed. It's the main product, etc. Okay. Then we get into options. Options are modifiers, things typically that don't cost money, but they can cost money as well. But the well, the extra, the over easy, on the side, those types of things that typically they do need an item to be rung up with them in order for them to be run. You can't just hit medium well if you don't have a steak or a burger in front of it. Okay, kitchen commands. Those are modifiers that can be sent all by themselves. You don't need a product with them. It's literally a kitchen command. So let me show you one of those. And oops. So I'm going to take off that. So you'll notice kitchen command. There's nothing else about it in here that we set up for it. It is, I can set it up with a keyboard. I can do a bunch of things to it, but it can go by itself and hold a place with the kitchen without having to have a menu item attached to it or a product item attached to it. Busing commands are just that. It's those words that clear or refresh water, etc. That's where those busing commands come from on the front of the point of sale that the busters can get to, that the servers can actually get to order to send to the buster to say, or to send that requisition out to the printer just saying, I need this table cleared, I need bread on this table, etc. Okay. Our other options through here are seating positions, actually creating those seat positions. That what does that. So when you want, if you want seat positions to show up, we basically are using products as that functionality. So by setting up seating positions, it sets up the button for it so that when you hit it, it automatically then either will ask you for the position number if that's what you want it to do, or you can automatically set it to go from, every time you hit it, it'll go to 1, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Okay, rated or hourly products. That's what I was telling you about with the pool table. So this is where you would tell the system that it is a rated or a hourly product. You go in and your pricing, and you put in what is the hourly rate for it. And then when the staff rings it, and again, you don't have to call it. You're going to call it pool table charge. You're going to call it bowling alley charge on screen, and then it's going to come up and it's going to start the clock. Okay, other options, delayed printer commands. So you can delay when something is going to go into the kitchen, give it a time set on it, if you will. Delay print command. All right, and we're going to go through some of this through here because this is where you set some of this up. Okay, so delayed print command. We also have merchandise, so you're separating out something that's a product versus a merchandise. Minimal charges is where you add minimal charges to a ticket. Ticket number, where you can actually, it gives you that option to have the ticket number pop up. So when you're in a quick service environment and you're handing out table tents and you want to put in what that ticket number is, this is where you would go to recipe item. Something, if you're going to do bulk inventory, so buffets, they don't ring up products in a buffet. But maybe at the end of the night, they do want to go through, and after they've done like a spot check inventory, and they go and do a spot check on, pounds of steak, pounds of beef, pounds of chicken, pounds of potato salad, et cetera, things along those lines. You're setting it up as a menu item, but it's for inventory purposes only. You're not actually ringing as the customers come through. And we have manual keyboard, which is just that. It gives you up a keyboard. So your miscellaneous, most systems you always want to create a miscellaneous key so that they can bring up a keyboard and the staff can type in what they want the modifier to be if they don't have it on the screen. All right, forced questions. What are the questions that have to be asked when I order something? So for instance, burger. I have a burger in here. Let's see if my burrito combo, oh, of course not. Give me something that's going to have a forced question. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Okay, so Old School Burger has a question that we've called old combo. So whenever you order a burger, typically you're going to ask them how do they want it done, and maybe you're going to ask them what toppings they want. Or in my breakfast scenario, two-egg combo. So how do you want your eggs done? What kind of maybe protein meat choices are you going to have with it? What type of bread do you want with it? Do I have a choice of hash browns or cottage fries, etc.? All of those types of questions are what we call forced questions. Now, mind you, forced question is assumptive. It's assuming that we're always wanting you to have that question. You can have questions that pop up, but they're not forced. They can actually key out of without giving an answer to. So basically, it's just assigning a question to a menu item. The ask once is if you have multiple questions here. There's two different views that you can have. Each individual question will pop up as its own box. So again, going back to my breakfast scenario, 2 eggs and meat choice. So the first question I may have pop up is how do you want your eggs done? You pick the egg choices, the box goes away. Then it comes up and asks you what kind of meat choice you want with it. Pick the meat choice, the box goes away, etc. If I click Ask It Once, it's going to give me one big pop-up grid that's going to pop up on the screen, and it's going to show every one of the questions all at one time. So then the server, the staff member can then pick in any order they choose what their answers are. So they see all options at one shot as opposed to being handed each option as it goes along. Okay. Courses, so this has to do if you're going to go with courses and if you're going to be using fire and also if you're going to use fire and hold. So what you do basically for each individual menu item, you apply it, you tell the system what course is this a part of. So for instance, I can say the burger is a part of my main course. Okay, print priority, again we have our print priority. Where in the listing will this print? And again, we go high number to low number. So if and again, this should not be in appetizers. Let's just say I'm going to fix that right now. This is actually a grill item. Okay, so within grill items, let me go back and get my burger now. Notice how it changed. And we can go to, oh, it is Old School Burger. So within my grill items, and if I'm doing this with coursing, so main courses, it again will sort by its priority number. So if I'm not using seat positions and I have, say, a lobster, I've got my Old School Burger, and I've got a pasta. And this one happens to be set to a priority of 50. And my lobster is set to a priority of 90. My lobster is going to sort itself out on the listing prior to my burger. Okay. Consolidated orders. You'll remember we saw this when we were doing our printer setup. This is where you can item specific. So you can turn on consolidated orders, but then you can also choose which consolidate. Maybe you don't want everything consolidating. Maybe, yeah, you're okay with all the burgers consolidating. Or maybe you don't want the burgers consolidating because, again, they could have different temperatures. Maybe I don't want it to show 3 Old School burgers and then have the medium, well, and extra. Maybe I want that to actually list out by each individual burger because of the topping choices and then the temperature styles. So I could have an old-style burger that they want it well with no lettuce, and I have another old-style burger that was supposed to be medium with extra lettuce. And I don't want it to consolidate across, and then the cooks have to kind of figure out what combination goes with what. So again, per item, you can determine consolidation. Okay? Printing options. Normal print options, print always, and roll up prices. So for your normal print options, it's going to, if it's a menu item, it's going to go. It's going to send itself. If you have a option attached to it, it is going to require a ordering product with it. Option items typically, again, medium well cannot go by itself. Over easy cannot go by itself. You need to have an ordering product assigned to it. But if I set it as always print, that is going to allow it to go. And there's some other things with always print in terms of KDS systems. And I know currently with an order interface that we're working on where you have to trigger some of them to do it, so that they always go no matter what. Roll-up prices has to do with an option being considered a paid modifier. Do I want, so if my burger is $5 and to add bacon to that is 50 cents, do I want it to show burger $5, add bacon 50 cents, or do I want it to say Old School Burger, add bacon $5.50? 650, I put my numbers are. Now, when it comes to food, typically you don't always roll the prices into one another. But when you're dealing with liquor, if I want to have a martini and I'm upselling to Absolute vodka, and it costs more to have Absolute vodka, or maybe it costs more to have an Absolute martini on the rocks because you're getting an extra pour. So whenever I add rocks to a cocktail, we bump it up another 25 or 50 cents. I don't want my Absolute martini to show up as $8 and then my on the rocks showing up at 50 cents. I would rather have it show as Absolute martini on the rocks at $8.50. So that's where the roll-up price option comes into play. Okay, so that's in the product setup tab. So now, as you'll notice, we have a variety of other options through here. Custom. So some of the customizations you can do. So here's where I was talking about groupings and being able to customize it. Define custom. by default, right now, this burger is going to follow the parameters that we set up for the report category grill. And if we put in configuration category, it would want to follow those also. But maybe this is something that's so special about this that I don't want it to follow either of those. I need to set up its own custom options. So by define custom, here I can go in and I can select the printer that this specific item, for whatever reason, needs to go to, because it's different than all the other items in its report category or in its configuration category. Its taxes can be set up, again, uniquely. The schedule can be set up uniquely, whereas maybe all the other appetizers, I said, we do happy hour from 4 to 6, or all the other entrees, now that I move this into grill items, we do it 4 to 6, but this is the only one that doesn't, or maybe this is the only one that does look at a different price. All of that can be set up through here. Modifier screens, again, maybe everyone else is looking at the foods extra, but I want this one to look at the bar extra as the default modifier screens. So that's the customization. This whole area is all can be customized per item, or if I uncheck that, it's going to default itself back to use report category settings. Okay, and you're going to see right here where it says use report category settings. If I switch this to here, go to custom, now it's going to default to using configuration category settings. So support, guys, this adds another layer of complexity for you all when you've got a customer on the phone and you're trying to troubleshoot maybe why a specific item isn't going to the right printer, or it's not charging tax properly, or any one of the number of things that maybe they're having a problem with a specific item. So this is one of the things that you want to double check for. Minimum security. You can set up items that require a certain security level for anybody to ring it, to actually add it to the ticket, or they get manager authorization for that. So a good example of that is kids meal. My real life example. I have a customer that has kids meals, and as long as you order, basically it's a kind of a kids combo meal, you're entitled to a small kids sundae. Well, we don't want to ring all that in at the same time because I don't want the sundae prior to the kid getting, his chicken fingers. So we created a button on the screen that was with the combo sundae that the staff can hit, but they need a manager's override to also verify that they've already rang up the kids combo. They're not trying to give it to a kid that hasn't had a combo meal, or maybe they only had the chicken fingers and they didn't want the combo. So there's an idea where you might want to put minimum security. You might want to even do that for your rated items, depending what they are. Account codes, cost codes, and inventory codes, again, all generic reporting fields based on any kind of reporting that you're looking into, or maybe if you're interfacing. Recipes is where you set up your recipe. So in order to set up your recipe, though, all the inventory items have to be added first. So if the inventory items are added, so I'm just going to say, I know this doesn't make sense, but I'm going to say the recipe for the old school burger is a potato. Pretend that it actually says burger. In ounces, I'm going to say it's 8 ounces. So now what that's doing, and it's giving me, it will, once I start putting in inventory, it'll start giving me item costs, and it'll also show, you'll see that I'm showing for all sales types in this one, because that's how my inventory item is set up. Here, though, one of the nice things that you're seeing is you're seeing where the suggested products, what the product selling price is. Had they filled in, we don't have any prices filled in for the potato, it would also show me what the percentage of cost was on that. Right now they don't have anything in the recipe cost, but if they had recipe cost in here right now, it would show me what my suggested price ought to be. Oh, let's see if there's anything in here that they put some prices in for. You'll notice this one I can do by the piece. However you set up your inventory is how it's going to show up. And unfortunately, I don't have any pricing in here right now, but it would calculate for me what this recipe so far is costing me, what my suggested price should be, and what the percentage is. Okay. Advanced, some more unique things that you can do through here. Time served, how long should it take on average before this item is served? So you can do time survey reporting, if you will, making sure that the kitchen expediting time frame and the server expediting time frame is matching up to what the standard should be. RPC codes, so bar scanners. Again, in inventory, in, say, retail, gift shops, even in, say, one of my customers, Baskin-Robbins, they sell pre-pack ice cream that has barcodes on that. So again, if you have a scanner, You can use that. A number of items for countdown. So they can do countdown again. If you remember it on point of sale up front, we could set up the countdowns there. You can also come back here in the system and you can set up a standing countdown. So if there's always 20 of these, you can put that in there. Okay. Manual entry item. So if it is, I can set it up so that even though it comes up Old School Burger, it's going to prompt for a price. So the server sets the price anytime they ring it up. Or I can prompt for a description. So this is sort of the same. You would use this in tangent with your keyboard as well. Okay, feature code. Feature codes are from a long time ago. It gave you, and it kind of predates like policies and all that. We created a bunch of feature codes that enable products to do something different. So instead of having option buttons and check boxes to say, yes, I want to do this or that or the other thing, it was an easy way to upgrade the software real quick and actually add some feature codes to the system and to that product to make it act a certain way. I'm going to revisit this, the next grouping, because then I can actually show you the printed listing of some of the feature codes that are out there. I don't have them off the top of my head. Tax exempt number of this particular item has a tax exempt for whatever reason, maybe an alcohol situation. Label capacity, if you're going to print labels for this product, what is the range of the labels? What is the number of characters that you can have? If you're going to do prep locations, again, this goes back to inventory. Covers, how many, if you're counting covers based on product, again, covers can be counted based on seats that you open up on the ticket. A cover could be just, each ticket is considered a cover. If you're actually going to use seating positions, each seat can be a cover, or you can do it by products. You can assign a cover quantity, if you will, per each cover. So maybe Old School Burger is equal to 1, whereas an appetizer is equal to 0.5. A lobster maybe is equal to 3. Or if you're in a restaurant that serves home style, where they do tables of 4, et cetera, and they do the big platters. You assign, a platter of chicken is worth 4 covers because it can feed 4 people, that type of thing. Think of your appetizer combo plates that a lot of places will use. You might consider changing the covers on that as well. Points awarded. This is where, for member program loyalty, you would assign the number of points that this item is worth. So let's say my burger is worth 10 points. Okay. Employee points, if you're doing an employee type promotion in the system. This has to do with the contest. What is the points coverage on that? So let's say that's worth 5 points. Okay, make info, generic area here. There's a make info button that the staff would use on the point of sale, and this is where you'd put in all that information. We use it for multiple things. You'll notice there's web description and long web description, POS information. So POS has to do, again, with the POS. The web descriptions have to do with the online ordering functionality. You can load an image here, but this is where you can put calorie counts, making, ingredient listings, how it's made, et cetera, any kind of information that is deemed worthy for either one of these environments. Okay. See, we've got through this whole side. Okay, let's finish off this. Weighted items. So if you're going to do an item that you're actually going to be, and you're in interface with a scale system, this is where you can flag it that this is a weighed item. So the system then will go in and it'll weigh the item for you. So again, you'd have to put in what is this weighed by. So what we probably typically would have in there is maybe ounce, and then what is the actual the tare weight. So that is, what is the scale? What is the scale in the paper? So if you're putting it in a paper bag, or you put it in a box, etc. So for instance, if this is sold in a jar, what is the weight of that jar pre-product being put inside of it? And that's what's going to get deducted then when you actually finally put the product inside the jar. So the customer's not paying for the weight of the jar. Okay? Reporting product. So this is what the item is that we're reporting it as. If I want to change that off, if I'm associating, if I have multiple keys that all link to the same basic item, so I can get a little bit of a consolidation, I can tell it I want it to report as this. Size up and size down has to do if you're going into comboing, and there's some policies you have to turn on in order to activate combos, but you could do, if I do a combo, so I'm having a burger combo and it comes with a medium drink and a medium fry, and the customer wants to upsize to the next size drink. Instead of having to take off the medium drink and add the large drink, I can just do upsize. You would set up buttons for this where you can just do upsize, and then this is telling the system what is the next item that you would upsize to. So if I would upsize from a medium drink to a large drink, I would here go through and pick my large drink, so then the system knows it's what I'm upsizing to. The same with downsizing. If you're going to turn on that functionality, you want to then tell it what item you're going to downsize to or upsize to. You have to link it, if you will. Active date. You can set up a schedule in the system of when an item is actually active. So think in terms of specials. Think in terms of New Year's Eve. Maybe you're doing a New Year's Eve menu, and you want to get proactive, and you're going to build everything out for the menu beforehand. But you don't want anybody to be able to ring it prior to, 12/31. So this is where you can set an active date and when that's going to kick on. Okay. Item special. Is it a normal special, today's special, or desserts? This has to do with the contest categories that we set up, and if in fact this item is associated with any of these. Default is normal. Okay. Activate surcharge. By doing that, this is automatically going to turn on the functionality to automatically add a surcharge to a check for this item. Okay. So what your minimum charges, maximum charges, apply to net, apply to final total, assign price A through H as percentage. So it's another little functionality that it has as well, where you could actually assign it as a percentage. You could go into prices A through H and do a percentage point instead of doing a flat charge. Okay? And cancel changes no. And we're going to stop there because we're already 5 minutes to the hour, and I do want to give a little opportunity for some questions because I'm sure there's probably some questions about member out there. So we'll pick up on products when we come back next Tuesday. I do want to go back to one of the questions that was asked last week. And so, by the way, while I'm talking, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into your little reference box so that Leslie can ask me them. The question last week on Tuesday about quick orders and order numbers and being able to reset them. And the answer is no. I double-checked with our programmers, and no, we don't have a policy or whatnot to allow you to do that. You can use the ordering functionality to bring it up and put in your own manual table temps, or again, you can go into receipt setup, and by setting up the receipt setup and doing the *O, it'll then pick the last 3 numbers of the transaction number, and that's just going to go 1 through 9999. Can't reset that to start back up again because, again, it's going off of the order number, and order numbers never reset. Again, we're a SQL database. You are never going to find 2 tickets for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be unique till forever. So that functionality is not there. Okay, Leslie, you got some new questions for me?
I do. Let's see, we'll start with the first question that came in a bit ago when you were still on the training session. The first question is, please elaborate on the tip-out area in the summary group setup. Where does it go, what reports, and how does it split, etc.?
Tip-out area in the summary group section. Oh, I apologize. I totally blew past that. This has to do with tip pooling, and when there's a tip out, based on, it's going to show up on the cash out, the server's cash out report, what is the suggested, if you will, tip out percent. So food, for instance, any type of food product, you got to think in terms of you've got a busser that helped out with the food. You're tipping basically your busser. Maybe you're going to tip your kitchen staff also, but you're tipping your busser. So maybe my tip out percent on overall sales, on all food sales, is maybe 20%. But maybe for liquor, because I have a bartender involved, that's going to be, say, 3%. So 3% of my sales is actually too high. Well, I'm sure my busters would love 10% or 20%, but I'm going to say they get 10% of my food sales. That's my suggested tip out, is 10% of whatever my food sales are. So if I sold $200 in food sales, I'm going to suggest to the servers that they tip 10% of that, so $20 to their busters. Liquor sales, maybe of overall liquor sales, my bartenders get 5% of liquor sales. And like you see here, merchandise, typically you're not going to tip anybody off of merchandise. Beverage, again, maybe, and again, it depends on how you use that category. If beverages are non-alcoholic beverages, so things that I get myself, then there's going to be 0 on there. But again, if my busters are helping me get my beverages, they're the ones that are getting my sodas and refilling my coffees and my teas for them, maybe I'm going to set that up as a 2%. So this is going to show up on the cash out report for the servers. Okay, next question.
The next question, can the system be set not to allocate points when a customer is redeeming points? For example, if they are paying their bill either in part or in full with points already earned.
So that's the new functionality that we were just talking about, in that they accrue, as I come to the restaurant that day, I'm accruing points for anything I purchased that day. But then using the new functionality, using the new, and it's so new I can't remember what we're looking at again. It is the allow current transaction points. So that is telling them, can they use their points, all points earned right now or not? So if I came in with 100 points and I've added another 20 points to it, and that's all I needed to get a coupon discount of 10%. Maybe my max is 110 points. This flag here will say, yes, they've hit they've hit the threshold that they need. We're now going to apply it, or no, they can't. Their meal starts based on what their points were prior to starting the meal. Their discounts, if you will, or the redemptions are based on where they were now currently, not where they are at the end of the meal. I hope that makes it a little clearer.
The next question, can we override scheduled price? For example, early bird is until 6 p.m. The party enters and orders at 5:55 p.m., but the server doesn't enter the order until 6:01 p.m.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. We still can't do it. I know. I wish we could. I wish we could set up grace periods too, but unfortunately, we don't have that yet. That's a good SER. Who's ever asking that question, submit that as an SER, because right now it's and you'll notice too when you're doing the scheduling, it's only in increments of an hour. So even if we couldn't do grace periods, if we could break the increments down to say 15 minutes or something like that, that would also give you a little flexibility, but unfortunately, no, not yet. I asked for that myself. And there's no manager override.
Next, I've got kind of a two-part question. If you tick consolidate on orders and the product setup, how does this print on the order printer?
So on the ticket, what I call it detail. The top half of the ticket's going to be detail. It's going to show, like, if you're doing it by courses or you're doing it by seats, or even if you're not doing either of those choices, it's going to literally print it out the way it was rung up. So if there was a burger medium well with fries, and then a pasta dish, another burger medium well, say with salads, that's all going to list out like literally line by line by line. I call that detail. Then there's going to be a dotted line that's going to pop up, and then at the bottom, and I do believe this is just in a tad bit of a smaller font, now you're going to see pasta dish, 2 burgers. And then it's probably, it breaks it up by comma, so it's going to go, like, say, medium. Like I said, the one was medium well with fries, and the other one was, well with a pasta salad or whatever the case was. So it's going to add to the length of the ticket, but there's a dotted line, so that they can look down, and I don't think there's not a way of flipping it. I can't put the summary on top and the detail on the bottom. So basically what the chefs will tend to do is they just look down at the bottom of the ticket first and they yell, hey, drop 2 burgers, drop 3 steaks, pop it, get a lobster. And then they come back up to the detail of it and they see what the temperatures are and what the rest of the condiments and the side dishes are.
Okay, and then the second part to the question, which I think you already answered. Regarding consolidate on order, do the consolidated items appear at the bottom after the standard order is printed? Proper consolidation should only print 1 line in quantity.
Well, it's going to say 3 burgers, 1 pasta, 4 lobsters. I think that answers that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to just list, it's going, each individual menu item, each unique, let me put that again, each unique menu item is going to have its own line with the quantity also. I guess that might be a better way of putting it.
And the next question, on a bar environment, when a customer orders a drink and they want it double, is there a way to do it instead of having to create a double product / option for each different drink? That is, charging the double of the drink.
So you want to volume it. That is a good question. In the back of my head, I think one of the feature codes I was kind of mentioning, I think there's a feature code that will do that. Volume on drinks. You know what? I'm gonna put that on my action list to have an answer for you guys on Tuesday. I know it's not in the setup of the products. You got me scratching my head on that one. See, I'm getting confused. So there's another system that I work with where you can do that. It's not going to be shift. It's not going to be user. I almost think that there's a feature code that lets us do that, but I'm going to get back to you on that one.
Next question, a partner says we can create special coupons for special member groups. For instance, 30% for normal member and 50% for VIP members. But how can we avoid that a cashier can change the member group for any customer from normal to VIP?
You lock them out of the field. So one of the things that we haven't gone through yet, and I haven't turned it on in my system, but I will now. Use record and component locking. This was added late part of 11.2 something. I think it was in 11.1 or 11.2 that, oh, why am I questioning myself? 11.2 got added. So you guys haven't seen this yet. And you know what, and I could be stepping over myself because I haven't actually tested it in members. Hope I'm not stepping over myself. Come on. There we go. Yes. So if you right-click on a cell, there's two things. There's component locking and there's record locking. Record locking will lock this particular record and everything about this record. So this is a record specific. Component locking, you can go in and lock specific fields, and that's global. So if I lock the group field, for every member, that field is locked unless you have the proper security in order to get in there and edit it. So I'm going to go into groups, component locking. This is the actual field that it talks to. So now you'll see here, come on, where am I going to go? So so now it's locked. Now because I'm in at a level 99, you have to be a level 99 in order to unlock it or to edit the field. Anything less, and you can't. If I want to change that, I can click on it and I can say, maybe I'm going to allow my managers to unlock it. So anybody that's a manager level and higher will be able to edit that field. So that's how you can do it. So for instance, let me see who is. Oh, I'll show you this next time. But if I were to log out and log back in again as someone with a lower security level than a manager, you will see that that field is grayed out. And now again, that's global. So when you do field locking, you're locking out for every record, as opposed to component locking, component locking, you're locking out that field for every single record. When you do record locking, I'm locking literally this particular record. So this comes in handy for coupons. You could have corporate coupons that are going to go out to the store level, and you do not want them at the store to be able to edit anything about the coupon. They can add their own coupons locally, but they cannot edit anything that is corporately owned. And this is huge for menu now, guys. So again, company, corporate specific, I send down the menu items. We're using HO to send down menu items. I don't want them to be able to change the name. I don't want them to change the report category, the way it functions. I can lock all of this out, and maybe the only thing they're allowed to touch is price. So I would lock down everything but the price fields, and that includes the various tabs as well. You don't want them to get in here and change out their recipes or any of the customization that you have set up here. they would have to be a significant security code to be able to do that. So that's how you're going to lock them out from changing groups. Okay, next.
We have one more question in the queue. A partner writes, in the back office we can define the Mrs., Mr., and is there a way that they can do this in the pause field?
No. No, because when the pause field comes up, it automatically defaults to what you've already set up.
And that's all that we have in the queue right now.
Okay. If anybody else wants to pop up, I'm just thinking about this again. If there's any way that we can. No, yeah, they don't have that control out on the front side of on the POS side. Anything that's configured, I guess, and putting in like with your refund reasons and whatnot, all that needs to be configured in the backside. Okay. Nothing else is coming in.
Nothing else in the queue.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time. We'll pick up again on Tuesday. For those of you that have a holiday in the States, enjoy your holiday. And everybody else, have yourself a great weekend. And Leslie, thank you for taking care of things while Emily's on vacation. I really appreciate that.
Sure. Thanks, Donna.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.